if I am all knowledgeable and you are also not all knowledgeable, it means we have the same understanding of knowledge, right? We know everything. We both know everything. So in that case, anything that you would know, I would know by default.
So
right?
am I all powerful? Am I all powerful enough to keep something secret? For example, it could have been like our universe could have been something like different. Like instead of human beings having 2 hands, it could have been on 3 hands, for example. It could have been a different way. So because this is determined in one way, there's exercise of choice involved. But determined by a choice. So the agency has will. To give you an example to illustrate my point, suppose I want to write a letter to you, my boss, that I quit. Tomorrow, I'm not going to come to your company to work anymore, right? To make that letter, now if I am not self-aware, like if I'm unconscious, I'm sedated, I'm dead, would I be able to write it? No. So you follow? I need to be self-aware. Now, suppose I'm self-aware, like I'm now talking, walking, but I do not have the intention. So I am not even thinking about it, I'm not intending about it. I can go on talking to you, my boss and everyone else, until I die. I would never be able to write a letter if I don't intend it. It's not going to proceed from me automatically because I have to intend it. Now suppose I am self-aware and I have the intention, but I don't have the ability. For example, my brother tied me at the back, sellotape on the mouth, my eyes closed, my everything. Now I can't even do this eye thing with the latest technology and then write a letter. I can't speak, do anything. I'm totally incapacitated. But I have the intention. Would I be able to write a letter? No, I can't. So these 3 things seems to be the core qualities.
Sorry, what 3 things you said? One is
Self-awareness, intentionality or will, and ability for any transformation. Some might say, look, we can have robots to do this, but robots have been programmed by an agency who was like that. So still, you cannot get away with these 3 qualities of an agency. So we're saying, if something transformed us, let's call this something the transformer, because it's the transformation. This transformer essentially and necessarily has these 3 qualities. But these qualities makes it this thing away from a material entity to something that's personal, self-aware. This tripod is not self-aware. This stone is not self-aware. But we're talking about an agency that is self-aware and wills, makes intention, okay, I'm going to transform this way or that way, because it decides, it chooses. So it's a personal agency. That's the 3 essential qualities of the creator. And there's more.
But let's say, for example, we say, I'm not sure, like, what does Islam say about?
Yeah, we're Muslim, yes.
So when we say, like, if we are within, so Islamic God exists outside of the universe or inside of the universe?
Inside, no. Creation is outside the creator. Creation is distinct, separate, outside the creator.
But in that case, when you say outside, so do you try to imagine, like, what would God do? Because you are attaching will to it, right? God has a will.
Necessarily have to.
God has a will, right?
Necessarily,
and
yeah.
For example, if I compare it to humans, will is a product of consciousness, right?
Oh, that's us.
Yes, we are conscious being, and will is a product of consciousness, and we know consciousness is a product of our brain, right? Because if I take
not
out
necessarily.
Like in what sense?
There is a hard debate about what is consciousness and where is it sourced.
Okay, but we all agree on that it's caused by brain activity. For example, like there has been brain. For example, if I feel love, if I feel sadness, there would be different hormones secreting in my brain, right? And there would be different activities.
There may be a lot of connections.
Definitely,
right?
we don't know everything.
But science has not come to a point to where to focus what is the seat of consciousness.
I agree with you. I agree
Okay.
with you. But
so
still
that's
there
us.
is a different.
So in our understanding, what we're talking about will is, for example, I'm willing through my agency
but
of my
in that
neurons,
case, you know,
my consciousness.
The problem what I want to discuss here is about if God is outside of the creation,
Yes.
okay, and we know as of now we don't have any other way to know that our brain is somehow produces the consciousness, okay.
You're
Let's
presupposing.
say for example, supposing.
No, you're presupposing.
Yeah.
Without presupposing,
Let's say if I take my brain out, there would be no consciousness for me. I believe so, right? I mean, if I am dead and my brain is rotting and someone dissected my brain, took it out from my body, I don't think I will feel anything, right? I mean, I'm dead, right?
we haven't done experiments to demonstrate that, have we?
Like if we.
So in the
Yeah,
future,
but
are you
even
saying
that-
in the future are you
No, no,
saying
but-
people can't do brain transplants?
Sorry.
In the future, are you saying people cannot do brain transplants?
No, I am not saying that.
So what will happen in the brain
It's
transplants?
completely different.
So let's understand that. In brain transplants, what will happen? Would somebody lose their
but
total consciousness?
It's not about brain transplant, and because we don't know whether it would happen or not. But as of now, what we know, when we die, our consciousness dies with us, right? Do you agree with that? Like when we
I
die,
disagree. Because once we die, we still are aware of our existence. And that awareness is rooted in our soul. Our soul lives on.
Okay, so you are talking about soul now.
Yeah, what is the soul? Science doesn't know yet.
But we don't, because science does not have any proof of it, like soul, right?
Science doesn't know yet.
Yeah, but
science is not the arbitrator of all knowledge. It's a limited scope, only knows a
But
limited
then
thing.
How we can accept that soul exists? Then, like,
Look.
if science is not.
So are you
then
going
what-
to use science to say, this is how much I love my wife?
No, of course not.
Science is the wrong tool. So you can't bring in science, a limited tool, to answer all questions
Then
of reality.
Then what?
Other tools.
According to you, what are the?
There are lots of other tools to use.
Like?
Rationality,
So how
rational reasoning.
Like so.
And that's what I exactly was using to understand that there has to be something necessarily always existing and must have
But
three
then
essential
again-
qualities.
But then again, see, we are. I think what I'm seeing is we are going in circular.
I'm not
because
going in circle, I'm being consistent.
Then.
Now you tell me, do you disagree with that the transformer
No,
must
I
have this?
agree with you. I agree with you. But I disagree on the consciousness and soul kind of.
I didn't talk about consciousness, I said
No, because
awareness.
we were talking about that.
But I'm talking about awareness. The creator, now let's look about the distinction between the creator and the created.
No, just sorry. I just don't want to interrupt in between, but I'm still not able to understand because even let's say what you say that science is not able to answer everything, which I believe. I completely believe that science is not.
It's the wrong tool to use.
Yeah, because the why answer is not that comes from science. No thing. But that why answer does not come from science. But then again, soul is a very massive jump that we are making. That I believe you are making without any. I don't see any way to prove. I mean, if you cannot prove that soul exists,
You
or
just-
let's say after death.
You just asked me, and I
Let's
gave
say
you.
after death,
No,
how-
I gave you what I
No, but how?
believe, right?
Yeah, but how,
Now, I can only talk about things that I can prove.
yeah, but
That's why I went to proving the transformer.
I get your point. I get
No,
your
no,
point.
but you see now what you're trying to do is you're asking me to prove something that I cannot use the technology or the tools to prove. I have to use something else.
Then it's a
So-
belief.
No. I am not talking about the soul. You asked me for it. I didn't introduce soul into it. So I will talk about things which can be provable. Do you agree?
But you did introduce soul because you said like if we die, I said that our consciousness dies with us, right? I said that if we die, our consciousness dies with us, correct?
That's your belief.
Because we don't have any way to prove that after that consciousness.
Are you saying the absence of evidence is the proof of absence?
No, I'm not saying.
Then don't say that. This is not an evidence.
Then you say, but you are saying that.
I am not talking about the soul. Let's stop there. I'm not talking about the soul.
Then
I'm going to now ask you, in what we've discussed.
Hey.
Assalamu alaikum.
So how are you? Yeah, we were discussing earlier. Last week we came and it was a very fruitful discussion.
Fine. So what we've said so far, this agency has will, ability, and awareness. Now, is this will like our will? Is this ability like our will? is this self-awareness like our awareness? I would say no, because that would be a category mistake. Because the creation came from that transformer, that thing. And by definition, it will be limited in its scope. So if, for example, I have a will, my will be absolutely limited in scope compared to the will of the transformer. I'm calling the agency the transformer, the creator, right? So you cannot then say, oh, the will comes from the mind, comes from the consciousness. You're making a category mistake because you are now comparing the creation, the will of the creation, to the will of the creator. Do you follow? It's a logical fallacy you're making.
I do
category
not
mistake.
agree specifically because still, like what you are defining, which is outside of this, there is no way to identify that will is different from our will.
Has to be necessarily. Let me explain how. Anything that is us now, we are contingent because you've explained already.
Sorry,
Fine.
what is the meaning of contingent?
It could be something different. It could be otherwise.
Depends on condition. I mean,
Yeah.
it can change
For example,
depending on
you could have been born in Bangladesh instead of India. It wasn't necessary for you to born in India. That's the contingent property that you have. Okay. All of the things that we see, they are contingent like this. And because they are contingent, they have to rely on something that is non-contingent. That is what we call, by definition, necessary. Now, the necessary thing or a being necessarily will have different qualities and properties than contingent beings. Otherwise, it will have the same quality with the contingents. So contingent things are dependent. The necessary thing will be independent. Likewise, if, for example, I have a will with this limited scope, that will is not going to be like, it will be absolute will. We have limited will, and the creator will have absolute will. Necessarily. It follows necessarily.
I hope you have heard these questions from a lot of people, but as of now, let's say you are talking about the creator having a will, right? But in that case, like I know this is a pretty basic question, but we go in the infinite regress. Like who created the creator? What is your point on it?
Yeah, sure. So, do you believe in infinite regress? Is possible?
I don't know because what I have heard as of now, it's quite possible, but I don't see I don't see the point in both of the cases because it can happen, it can also.
Okay, so let's talk about infinite regress and possibility of it. Let's try to bring some scenario cases to illustrate the point. Okay, suppose now I have a book that I want to give it to you. Does anyone have a book? Quran, anything?
I have.
Yeah. Okay. Show a demonstration. Oh, that was good. Excellent. Suppose I want to give this book to you. It's an act of what we call a change to happen, right? From my hand to your hand. Okay? If there are infinite number of people between you and me. So, for example, before I give this book to you, I have to give it to him. Then he has to give it to him. And it goes on to infinite number of people and then to you. So now imagine now, me, infinite number of people and to you. Would it ever reach you?
No. Infinite.
So that means the action of this book from my hand to your hand will not take place if there are infinite number of events to take place like that. Now let's understand this in reverse.
But doesn't it mean then if infinite regress is not possible, then is it possible?
Can I finish my example?
Can
I finish my example? Then you will see illustrated. No, don't apologize. Let me continue. Now, imagine now, the book has gone to your hand. What would that prove? Would that prove there are infinite number of people in front of me and you?
No, it just will tell me that you have given me the book.
It will disprove that there were infinite number of people. Because infinite number of people means it would never come to your hand. Because it came to your hand, that means there was no infinite.
Because infinite is endless.
I get it.
Yeah. Do you agree? Because it went to your hand, it means it was not infinite. Okay? So now let's go talk about this universe. The universe came into existence 14.67 billion years ago, right? So that action took place. If there were infinite number of creators, then our universe will never come to existence.
But infinite would only work if there is a time involved in it, right? If let's say, if God is out of time, is your God timeless?
God is the creator of time.
Yes, I think it's an important question.
Go ahead.
So you are a very important question. So infinite regress would not be a valid way of creating anything in the time frame.
Sorry.
So infinite regress would not work of bringing something into existence in the time frame. In time frame, you are correct. But when we have to, we are in the time frame, infinite regress is invalid for creation. Just
What he said, yeah. So let's say outside
yeah.
of
So
it.
now, if you are outside of time, then you are stepping outside of time. Now, if once you have stepped outside of time, then the entity beyond time should be one.
Should be
Single one.
One.
Should be a time.
Why is it that? Why? should
Because
it be single?
again, it would be contingent in the sense that you cannot differentiate between actions. Because how to differentiate between two entities? Because some distinction in action or some will or something like that.
Why can't let's say for example God is one theory. Okay, let's say God is one hypothesis. Let's consider. But there are like other hypotheses which scientific community claims. You know, like multiverse is one of them, and might be there could be in infinite universes as well as universe is just coming from a white hole kind of thing. So how this one created this one creator thing, what do you say, is do you think
Yeah,
you
comparison
believe in it
with the
like,
other possibilities. Yeah, other possibilities. How do it compare
because
with other
I know that
possibilities?
these are all hypotheses, but
But
it's just
we
like
can,
what
we can
makes you
imagine
think
the
it?
possibilities and then sort out which possibility is the rational one, which is consistent to our reality, and which are not. So this way, I mean, we say that if that entity is within the time frame or material frame, then infinite regress is impossible. Because of our existence. So it's impossible. Now the second possibility is that the infinite regress should end at a point where timelessness begins. Yes. So whatever beyond that is timeless. Whatever entity is there, it is timeless. Even if you bring, so we're at this point now. Whatever is beyond this timeless time frame, this timelessness region, we have to decide what is the nature of this existence, timelessness existence. Can there be multiple timelessness existence, self-sufficient or self-explanatory, or it would require further explanation for this existence, timelessness existence. So we can argue that this timelessness existence should be one unit, because you cannot differentiate in time. And if there is nothing in, there is nothing to distinguish between two timelessness existence, then you cannot say that this timelessness existence is not unit or in multiple form.
I didn't understand that.
Okay,
but it's okay. But let's say, do you think like you are a physicist, so
Regarding multiverse and this,
no, multiverse is fine. I mean,
Let's talk about the concept of multiple absolute beings who are the source of or the grounding of our reality. We're talking about our reality, our existence needs to be grounded on something that we call the transformer. That's called the creator, right? Can there be multiple creators? We're absolute.
I can't think about it, but it's quite possible that there can be multiple beings working with each other.
Okay, so what we would say is multiple beings working with each other.
Working with each other. Just like
working
we
with
work
each other. Working with each other tells us that we haven't understood what we mean by necessary. Because a being that is going to be necessary is a being who doesn't have weakness or limitation.
Yeah, but that
It's an absolute being.
Right.
Because we are contingent, depending on independent reality, that independent reality has to be by definition necessarily absolute. Absoluteness does not include any weakness, limitation, deficiencies. By compromising, like, okay, I will listen to you. You know, why don't I listen? You do this or that. That's a weakness.
Yeah, but that is something that definition, for example, it should be absolute. It should, is again you defined by humans, right?
Okay. Let me give you a scenario to explain it further. Okay. So let's take two creators or two gods who are absolute, and let's take some of the absolute qualities like absolute power and ability, and absolute knowledge. When we say absolute knowledge, it means knowledge of all things timelessly. Yeah? Knows everything. Okay. So imagine we have now God 1 and God 2, or God A and B. God A has a plan to create something. He's able to do that, right?
Sorry, both of the creators have the same all powerful,
all knowledge.
knowledgeable.
Right. I'm limiting to 2. There could be more, but let's say 2. So God A has a plan to create, and he wants to keep, not he wants, he's intending to keep it to himself, secret to himself. He's able to do that because he's all powerful. God B is all knowledgeable. Is God B, by his own knowledgeable nature, going to find out God A's plan? 2 options. If he finds out, that makes him more knowledgeable. If he doesn't find out, that makes him less than more knowledgeable. So if he's less than more knowledgeable, then he cannot be God, absolute. But suppose he finds out. If he finds out, then that makes this God not absolute, because he was incapable to keep it secret.
But in general, my understanding of knowledge is that if I am all knowledgeable and you are also not all knowledgeable, it means we have the same understanding of knowledge, right? We know everything. We both know everything. So in that case, anything that you would know, I would know by default.
So
right?
am I all powerful? Am I all powerful enough to keep something secret?
I honestly, I never understood the concept of all powerfulness because
Now, all powerful is the ability. For example, I have.
it is like honestly it is it's like compelling, but if we go with philosophy, you have already heard about that argument that can a god create, all powerful god create
Stone, he cannot live.
So
But
I'm not
that's-
sure like
but-
it contradicts itself or
but
not
that's-
because it's in logic or not.
That's
So-
not a problem. We can
but that's
explain
not
to
my
you.
point.
But this question again, have you thought about it?
No, it's just this coming
Okay.
to my mind when
Fine,
you
fine.
said like when we are
But
talking
we are not introducing here. We are just demonstrating the concept of absoluteness cannot be such that it can be possessed by 2 different entities. It just simply contradicts.
or we can say like they are like super intelligent beings out of nothingness, different just like we are.
But
like,
even if they're absolute, then you have this problem, because you cannot have their being absolutely powerful and absolutely all knowledgeable. There will be conflict of will. For example.
With your permission, can I say something?
Yes, sir.
The different coordination events that it takes to take any single action at any given moment in time is too enormous for one individual, for more than one individual to decide.
It's in time.
At one time, the different coordinations that are required, emotional, mental, physical, financial, everything that is required for the benefit of one action to exist at any given moment in time, for one action to occur, it has to be single, coming from a single source, not multiple sources. So if one God decides to be merciful and give a person a chance because he made a mistake, another God decides, no, he's had too many chances, let's punish. That's a conflict.
I think there is a lot of
I think this argument is that if there are multiple gods, maybe they are in agreement.
what I'm saying is they might not be all powerful, but they are much more intelligent than us.
Yeah. So let us entertain that possibility. I mean, so by all powerful we mean that there is no limitation to his action. Nothing can limit. Whenever.
There's too much noise here. We'll go to your side.
Sorry.
Go further down.
This is okay. I think it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. Yeah.
It's too noisy, trust me. Yeah. You know why we go there? So the trolls don't come.
Oh. No. No, sir.
Right.
No, it's.
Yesterday we are about to progress.
So the issue is that whenever we say that.
Yeah, I'm saying is like just like we are beings, हम लोग हैं, है ना? So how it is like why we think it has to be a necessary being rather than we can think of more intelligent creatures like us who are hyperdimensional. I mean, it's just a hypothesis. I don't claim that they exist.
Of course, there may exist multiple high intelligent beings, but again, that existence would require a single entity. I mean, who is all powerful. Let's for our discussion can be beneficial for others. Yeah, sorry. So yeah.
So that's what I was saying. I was just talking to him that why it can't be. Let's say it's just a hypothesis. I'm not claiming anything, but hyperdimensional beings, okay, who are much more intelligent than us, and they are like temporal. We are temporal beings. Let's say we exist within time and space. Because the problem is, let's say when we say God, it's a very complex subject, and everyone have their own definition of God. And when you add absoluteness to it, let's say he's all powerful, it becomes very difficult to comprehend the concept of God itself. For example, as I said, like God is all knowledgeable. We don't even understand the depth of knowledge about something because we know there is always like a layer we are peeling out. It's like an onion. You peel out. There is always some knowledge that because we first thought that there are.
We know everything. Science is complete like that,
yeah,
and then
because I mean it's not that because science is not a being that.
But there is no limit to knowledge.
We know that okay, there is air. Then we named it like oxygen. Then now we say like particles are waves and functions and fields and now fields are there, and then we say like there is time and space and there is like quantum fluctuations and everything. So the thing is when we add that attribute, because if you see like will, love, hate, all these emotions are human emotions, or they also exist in animals at different levels. And we are doing that for God as well. For example, the concept of God. Okay, and we know that okay, everything that are all of our emotions exists within this temporal space of universe. I do get your point. Okay? I do get your point that there is
timelessness.
Like timelessness, because the more qualities we add, it is very difficult to explain that kind of God. I mean, because I believe proving God is the most easiest question. Because it would be very difficult after that if you are able to prove God. It would be very difficult to
attributes.
All the attributes, like all powerful. So I am fascinated by the concept of God, because it is something that is been pondering us for a lot of time. Because when you say like
would you consider God would be the greatest being? Because if something is grounding of every existence, then he has to be, by definition, greater than everything that you can imagine.
Okay, but let me ask you something. Why can't we consider it as a product of us evolving from non-intelligent creatures to intelligent creatures? What are your thoughts on that?
So you are saying that...
let's say, for example, you already know that we have a predisposition of believing in God. When we are born, if you know about HAD-H, hyperactive agency detection.
We're hardwired to believe in God, right?
Yeah,
Children are hardwired.
So
it's
like we have a predisposition of believing in God, but it has to do with our evolutionary.
But I'm going beyond.
survival.
I'm going beyond this scientific understanding of evolution of life. I'm talking about even if life didn't exist in this earth, and
matter existed,
you still have to explain the existence of matter. and you'd have to explain the interactions of matter as they are interacting.
that's correct.
Right? So
And
then
that would require timelessness.
then that would require eventually agency with ability, will. Why I say will, transformation could have been other way. For example, it could have been like our universe could have been something like different. Like instead of human beings having 2 hands, it could have been on 3 hands, for example. It could have been different way. So because this is determined in one way, there's exercise of choice involved.
But
Determined by a choice. So the agency has will.
the problem is we don't have that much of information.
Okay, that's a way of saying.
That's why it's easy. You know, when you say that it's very complicated, it's very this.
It is complicated, but it is fascinating but complicated.
Yes, that's what
But the issue is that, let me explain here. So the issue is there, through reasoning, we recognize that there should be an existence which is beyond time, something like whatever matter or something like that, but it should have some capability to transform and should have some informational, because these are concepts. I mean, space, time, charts. These are concepts. So these concepts should be grounded there already. Either information box or something like that. It should be all the information, because if you say that information can create itself or can come from somewhere, it would be contradictory to our observations. Like nothing pops up into existence out of nowhere. Like it follows a particular law.
Yeah, the problem is like the nothing and something thing. It's so. It is like we can just discuss it like,
Well, it's very remarkable,
because
fascinating.
you know it's more about that, since we know nothing, we don't know that nothing can create something or there was always something.
Yeah,
There-
suppose
there can be like-
that's a good question. Let me address that. So suppose that there is something called nothing, which is not like our concept nothing. Suppose there is a new kind of nothing, as per our understanding of nothing, which is devoid of all possibilities, all potentialities. This nothing cannot create anything. There is no potentiality. But suppose you are bringing new kind of nothing, which is not like that. Yeah, and from that nothing, everything can come.
Then nothing will be something then.
Yeah, then
anything that has potentiality is something.
Then nothing.
It's not nothing
Now
anymore.
from this effect, you can attribute some capabilities, because when we see you, we do not see your whole being. We see your effects. You could be nothing. I could be nothing. Yeah.
Redefine nothing
Yeah.
by actually meaning something.
Again, if you're trying to avoid this time.
No, I'm not avoiding. It's more
No,
of that.
no,
I want
not-
to
not
understand
you,
your
in general.
perspective rather than.
Yeah. No, not you. I'm saying that.
There's two verses from the Quran that make it very easy. I know at this stage, from what you spoke, you don't believe in the Quran. Your intellect can take you to a certain point as a tool, but then it stops because it can't go beyond that because of the other limitations that we have. The ability to absorb information, the ability to retain information, memory, along with existence. So there's a verse in the Quran that Allah says that Allah intends ease for you, because insan or human being by nature is created weak. So because you cannot comprehend, given the limitations that we have, who God is in the complete sense, His words. Like there's a verse that if you try to get all the oceans to write the words of God, the oceans will be depleted, but the words will not finish. So you reach a certain point, but then it's easier when you've done all the thorough research you can to the best of your ability. What you heard, what you saw, what you observed, intellect, you go a certain point, but then it comes to a point where you have to submit and say, okay, based on the chances and probability, the research that I've done into, given my reasoning, everything I have into this religion, that religion, this religion, who God can be, His attributes, His nice, loving thing, everything can be, and it makes the most logical sense, financial sense, family sense, in terms of governance, kids, upbringing, and submission, and rely upon Him, then you're left with one entity, God.
Okay,
So
let us. I mean, that's different avenue.
Yeah, because,
let us explore how far we
I
can
have
go
not
in
read
terms of.
it, so
Yeah.
it is
So it's very
difficult to.
complicated.
No, I get it. I get it.
So it is, as human
But
beings.
we can go as far as we can through our reasoning. That's the point.
Let's say I have not read any scriptures, for example. So if for example, if you want to prove me God, and if you believe that God can be proven without the scriptures,
It can be.
yeah, so then we should first step on that, because Quran is like, I mean, the book, basically the scriptures is I think it comes at the later part when you are convinced that there is a God.
But can I say something which is very disingenuous that you're doing, and I think you're doing it subconsciously as a human being. It's you're doing it intentionally, which you don't realize. So it's something that we all capable of doing. God says in the Quran, "Am lil insani illa ma tamanna," that if you leave the agency to believe in God and you go to different religious way of life, you're going to take what's convenient and easy for you that works for you personally. Doesn't work for me, doesn't work for him, doesn't work for any of us. So you take one aspect from this religion, which is what people do now, atheists or in UK. You take an aspect of like pagan thing from here, you take the romantic festival of Valentine, you take this, you take the yoga from the Hindu, you take this from the Muslims, you take this, you combine everything, and he said, okay, you know what, I've got my degree, I've got my wife, I've got my kids, I've got all of this, I'm okay. But it's very disingenuous to enjoy the luxuries that God gives you, which you didn't create, of producing children, eating, seeing, sight. You exist, you live, you enjoy all the luxuries that God gives us, but conveniently we resolve ourselves of the responsibility in any religion. So you don't go into completely Hinduism, sincerely believing it's the way of God, but you take the yoga. You go into Islam and you say, okay, I don't like this, I don't like this. It's not vegetable market. That human beings, God said, if I gave the agency to mankind to do as they like and believe as they like, there will be much corruption and turmoil in the land, which we see. And for God is not what he designs for himself as agency or command. It's what you're told to do. So when you are given instructions, God tells you to do this. It's upon your measure to measure them in the sense of using your reasoning. So you look into Hinduism, okay, the different gods, no, they can't be the conflicting. And then you look at Christianity, for the different scriptures, authenticity. You look at the message, you look at the concept of God, you look at how it's delivered to you, what the concept is of God, the messenger's way of life, how I govern. What does it say about my wife? What does it say about my children? What do I need to do? How do I eat? How do I go to the toilet? Just tell me one thing, just one. Islam says drink all the drinks you want in the world, no problem. Don't take one. It's bad for you. And you know that drink already. I don't need to say that drink to you. You know there's a human being. I don't need to say that from the Quran. God says eat any meat you want, anything except one. Because it's unhygienic or for the reason we don't know, Allah told us, don't take that. So okay, wear any clothing that you want except silk in terms of a material, because it's preserved for you in Jannah. When you come and see me, it's prepared in Jannah for you. The men wear silk in Jannah, so it's a surprise. I'm holding it, don't wear it in things. So it's always one,
Jannah,
paradise,
right?
paradise.
Jannah.
Yeah.
Jannah.
So it's a test that all the agencies Allah has, Jalla wa ala, all the capabilities and skills and attributes and all the beautiful attributes that he has, which are absolute. He's given us a tiny portion agency to you in love. So you can love your wife, you can love your kids. He's given it to you in ability of your resources, right? The money you have, the clothes you wear, and what you can exercise of your will, your force, your fight. All the attributes Allah has is given you a tiny little portion, which we don't know how much it is. To see what you do, ahsani amala. To see who's the best of you in good deeds. And Allah will measure, so you had the love, you had the power, you had the intellect, you had the resources, you had the ability to procreate, you had the ability to make things with your hand, you had the ability to see all the signs around you, trees, you used your eyes, everything. What did you do with it? And then you have that scale of measurement.
But that, whatever you said, that makes sense if I believe, let's say, it is.
But it's in your interest.
It is not for a theist, right?
Agnostic, it's not in your interest to believe, because it will result commitment.
Brother is saying that it makes sense once he's convinced there is a being.
Let's say,
but I'm saying it's in your interest as a human being to not believe in God, given the agent who wants a responsibility that until you die, you're going to pray 5 times a day. Wake up in the morning, no reason. You don't see any reward in your hand. I don't see any God. Nobody comes and gives me something in my hand. This is your reward. So I'm going to get up in the morning, give charity, do this, do all of these agencies, but there's nothing. So as human being, it's convenient and easier for you to say, you know what, responsibility, obligation, my parents are not going to this, my mom told me this, my dad told me this, wait, I'm going to be isolated, I'm going to be alone, I'm going to struggle, I'm going to isolate myself and have everyone around me move away because I've chosen a better way of life? No, I don't think so. So that's where you have that belief where you take the agency and you do your best.
You said about that